Hey, Bob.
Karen, it is great to see you, but today is bittersweet.
It really is. Today is our last episode of Momentum Now. And while it's a very sad day, it is truly a day of celebration of all the work that not just you and I have done with the Momentum Now podcast, but all of the work for MVP, which is why we existed in the first place.
Right on.
So to celebrate today, we have some very special guests. So first we have the executive director of MVP, Miguel Valentin. We have the founder and CEO, Christine Sakdalan. And we also have Shawn Dahlhaus, right? Now, he has been with Momentum Now behind the scenes since day one, and you have never seen his face, but he is front and center today. So we're very excited to have you on screen.
Yeah, thank you all for not only being here today, but for everything you've done for MVP and providing value, resources, opportunities, insights for young professionals and professionals that are looking to really excel in their career. Shawn, it's great to see you. I almost want to welcome you to the show, but that would feel awkward. But it's great to see you in front of the microphone rather than behind the scenes. So thanks for being part of this as well.
Yeah, it's cool to be here on screen. I'm usually behind clicking buttons and marking clips.
We give you a lot of work to do.
Christine, could you give us a couple of highlights of how and why it existed, and any thoughts in wrapping up MVP as well as this program too?
Well, thank you, first of all, for having Miguel and I here. And thank you, Shawn, for everything. But also, I want to say thank you to Bob and Karen for doing a fantastic job with all of these wonderful episodes, all of these wonderful insights that we've been able to share across many different platforms. So I just want to say thank you before I answer your question, Bob. But it is a bittersweet, kind of a sad day, but there's also lots to celebrate. First and foremost, I celebrate the very humble beginnings of MVP, where Serene, who is one of the co-founders, she and I had an initial phone conversation. I had a very bad, traumatic experience, and that led to me saying, how can I turn that really negative experience where I felt this small to something more beautiful, something that is more impactful, and something that's positive, to really share the voice of the underserved communities, but also make sure that we provide opportunities and just a platform, right, for growth and development. And so that really became the start of MVP. And then at that point, Serene and I also talked to Tina Chang, also one of the co-founders, and we told her what we wanted to do. And we said, even if we only impact one young person through this work, we would be all set. We would be so happy. And Tina came on board immediately. And from there, we just really looked deep within ourselves to say, why do we care about this work? What is it that we want to do? And then we just engaged all kinds of people, including yourself, Bob. You were part of the initial crew that we recruited. And we just took some like-minded people alongside of us and some passionate people like, again, all of you in this podcast to say, how can we make this world a better place for young people, especially in the underserved communities? So in a nutshell, but so much more to say.
Right. Yeah. Miguel, what do you think you're most satisfied with or most proud of when you think of MVP and reflect on the past 4 years and your time as leading the charge for us?
What a loaded question, Bob. Thanks. Like Christine said, I'm really, really happy to be here. Thank you guys for having me on again. I remember when this podcast started. I was so excited about this, and I think you guys have done such a great job with all of it. To answer your loaded question, one of the things that I'm most proud of, for me, it's been really sad. The past couple of days, sending out those notifications, telling people that MVP is closing. For me, it felt like I was carrying this torch, this fire, the Olympic torch that you're carrying. It was passed on to me after 2 years MVP started. I was running with that thing, and then the flame goes out. And I can't help but feel like it was my fault, that I had something to do with it, that, I could have kept carrying it, but I'm the one that let it go out. And I've been so encouraged by the people that have reached out to me in the past couple of days, people that have been so involved with MVP. And really, they've told me, you know, the fire that you had, when you turn around, you look at all the students that got a piece of that fire. They're the ones that are carrying it on. And I get so emotional when I think about it. And it's 145. It's 145 students that we were able to help in those 5 years. When it comes to coaching, mentorships, paid internships, workshops, a lot of them can tell you stories about how this was pivotal for them in a time where they're trying to enter the workforce. And so it's hard, it's bitter, but at the same time, I'm really proud of the impact with those 145 students. And I think they are going to carry that torch on. And that's not something that someone can take away from them. So really happy about that.
And can I just add a little bit to that, Miguel, Bob and Karen and Shawn? I would say the 145, those were the individual personalized touch points, but I would also challenge us to think that our impact was much, much more broad than that, especially because of the podcast that you have, right? Where it does reach hundreds, if not thousands of people. We've also had workshops that we've recorded and put on YouTube. We've had all kinds of, I'll call it assets, digital assets that will live on longer, much longer than this organization. And so, Miguel, I just want to say that don't feel sad. I think you need to feel encouraged even that the work, even if it officially stops, the impact will continue on and it will sustain, and not just in the lives of the ones that we've touched, the 145 students, but so much more through the different means that we have had the pleasure of being able to expand the message.
You know, when I hear both of you talk, you know, I kind of hear something different, which is, you know, Christine started off by saying, you know, if we could help one person, right? And I'm not very good with math, right? So if I had a rapid fire question and Bob asked me, that would be my answer about what was my least favorite subject. However, you have exponentially surpassed the original goal. All right. And so you should really sit with that. And I also think the fact that you started it, you did it. Because some people talk about doing things, but you actually started something, brought a group of people together to help build it, and impacted more than 145 people, right? And we'll continue to do that. And so it's something you should be proud of, right? Because it's going to spark, that fire is going to spark something in somebody else. And even if it's just one more person that does the same thing that you did, then you have done your job, right? You also have impacted the board members and the volunteers. Like, I have been transformed by the experience. I got to meet all of you. I got to work with Bob and Shawn on a regular basis. Like, that's, that's gold. But I met a whole bunch of people through this whole experience. And so I'm going to carry that forward. So there's even more impact that maybe you don't see.
No, of course. Yeah. And just, you know, to be clear, there's so many rippling effects. There's so many things that have happened that's so hard to count. It's very ephemeral. And I'm so proud of the time that we got to do it. For me, what that 145 represents, some people may think that that's a small number. Yes, that's bigger than one. It's not as big as the rippling effects. But to me, that 145 is so personal to me. Bob, from you asking that question to me, I'm thinking of those individuals I met, I spoke with, I met regularly. Like, these were the students that we did in-depth work with, and I know that they're going to succeed in life because we poured so much into that 145. So that 145, that's why that number means so much to me. But yes, we've impacted so much more beyond that. It will continue to have rippling effects, but that's something that I think I'm most proud of.
And I think the other thing is that it fuels a passion with everyone that's been involved, whether they're a participant or volunteer or someone that was an MVP fellow or a student or someone that watched one of the webinars we had on presentation skills or whatever it might be that to help young professionals. They'll carry that on and that torch will continue. So the light, from my perspective, the light's not going out. It's just moving. It's just changing. It's morphing. And when you think of episodes that we were able to produce with Momentum Now, which of course was meant to be the microphone for MVP, there's a few episodes that I continue to forward to individuals that are looking for help in their career. Narcissus Alakani, who is the VP of marketing for the Atlanta Hawks. In her episode, she talked about when you're looking for a job, you need to approach it like a project. And with her marketing hat on, what she looked at is almost like an operational marketing project. You need to have key messaging about who you are and what you can deliver, your differentiation as a candidate. And then assembling spreadsheets. What companies do you want to target? Who are the individuals in those organizations? Keep a track record of where your resume is going and who have you heard back from and who haven't you. Really approaching it like a project and almost like taking on that of an operational role while looking for a job. That episode for me has been so valuable to be able to pass that on to others who are in a job hunt today. And we know that is never easy. Are there episodes, Shawn, that are favorites of yours when you think of the really wonderful, valuable lessons or guests that have had an impact on either you or ones that you resonate with you personally?
Yeah, absolutely, man. First of all, there's a lot to draw from. So I've been behind the scenes for every single episode, and I've marked more clips than I can pump out personally of just the sheer amount of advice and experience that each individual we spoke with just shared. They just had years and just drenched in their own industry. And I'm just sitting there like, I just get to listen to this, for free. But one that's kind of near and dear to my heart because it calls to my time in music and education is Javier Farfan. And just for what he represents, showing up for people and just seeing someone like that rise above from where he came from to touching people like Jay-Z in his hip hop magazine, and then bringing that experience from marketing and just kind of being a hustler, right? Bringing that real experience into the classroom and showing people that you could show up as yourself and make it as yourself. I thought that was like, oof, like that hit me in my chest when I was listening to that. He's probably my personal favorite. And a second runner-up, just dealing with really hard managers and people of authority in your life. Samina Bari. When we reviewed her, when she came on to talk about her book, found her experience particularly moving, and kind of just sticking it to people, when they give you griff,
She also talked about the value of negotiating and know how to negotiate and having a position before you walk into the room. You're right. The best alternative to a negotiated agreement and having that predefined when you walk in. We touched on that during that episode, but you're right. There are a lot of great episodes, but that one in particular really is powerful for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think for me, I don't want to play favorites, right? Because Miguel was there, my own son was there, so I'm not going to play favorites. I liked all of the episodes, but I would say the one that probably was the most memorable was the very first one, right, with Mike Metcalf, because we had just started Momentum Now. I knew him from a past life. He speaks about the importance of diversity, excellence, collaboration, and kindness. And who Mike Metcalf is as somebody that I know as a human being, he just showed his true, authentic self through the podcast, right? And it just, like, you could feel it. You could feel, and not that the others didn't. I mean, the other guests, you feel their passion as well, and you feel their sense of purpose, right, for what it is that they represent and what they are talking about. But it was just very meaningful for me because he was the first guest. It was the first episode. And to this day, just to get people started listening to Momentum Now, even today, I actually passed along that first episode to my boss, right? Because I told him I had to leave my office at a certain time to make this podcast recording. And he said, well, what do you guys do? And so that's what I sent to him, right? So Bob, I love that you were talking about, you just, pass things. And that's what I do. I pass on, depending who I'm talking to and depending on what I think they need, I will pass it on. But the very first one to me represents, okay, this is the order of how it's done, right? So start there, and then you get hooked for the rest of all the other episodes.
And Michael was so strong with that particular episode as well for so many reasons. But being part of NASCAR and infusing diversity and then changing the game within the pit crew and actually trimming time off of pit crew time, it's incredible. Right. So, and having that sports background, great, just a great
There's
episode.
a reason. Yeah. The reason why we really wanted him as a board member at the time. Just a little, he's very busy, extremely, in high demand, a person like him. And we were wrestling with another nonprofit for him in the background, and they really wanted him, and they asked him first and all this stuff, and we never got him, but that was the one that got away for us. Yeah,
he was a great storyteller, right? And just having that backdrop just automatically drew you in because you didn't really know how NASCAR and diversity and leadership kind of went together. And he just kind of built that framework from scratch. And that was really, fun to hear about.
You know what else Michael talked about? I'm sorry, if I could just put this out there. He talked about how when leading a team or being part of a team, to approach it, the work in seasons, right? Just much like a sports team will have preparation time on the field, right? Performing, but also time to train and time to regroup and discuss new strategies. And I don't see enough organizations doing that, though they don't approach it like a season, getting together in February to set the rest of the or December to determine, what are we going to do in next year, and what does that look like, and how do we measure success? Then actually taking a break and pause to reflect and refine. And Michael talked about that as well.
Yeah, it's so interesting and off topic completely, but that's how I've been really into the world of like culinary and cooking, and a lot of like the top restaurants, top chefs, they do the exact same thing. That seasonality. They'll close their entire restaurant for months on end just to do research, just to be able to get the next menu out, which is so counterintuitive, right? You think you have to be making money, you have to be going, but they're like, no, if you want to be the best, you need times like that, times of reflection. So I think that goes across all industries. Yeah.
The power of the pause.
Well, not off topic, because one of my favorites was Maya Feller, who talked about nutrition. And she's actually, just so you know, Bob, I actually thought in my head before listening to it again that it wasn't one of our best episodes. And then I went back and just coming off of the podcast, that's just what my feeling was. I'm like, oh, we could have done that so much better. And then I went back and listened to it. I was like, oh my God, this episode is awesome. And I know why it's awesome. Because she is someone I reference all the time because I'm obsessed with food, right? And one of the things she talked a lot about was how healthy food is viewed through a very Anglo-European, Anglo-American lens, and how we need to reevaluate our relationship with food and not think that quote unquote ethnic foods is literally what you said, that they're othered and that they shouldn't be othered. And it made me feel better about the foods that I eat, which I've been taught to think that they are inherently unhealthy, and they're not. It's just about balance. And so it's something that comes back to me on a regular basis as I think about the food in front of me. And she gave some really salient examples around, you really should just be mostly vegetables and such, right? And so pasta was like a great example. The red sauce is a vegetable and the pasta is a vegetable. I never really thought about it that way, right? She's referencing lots of the foods that you eat, Bob. So I love that episode.
It's true. Yeah. And the other part about Maya that was so fun is her background, right? Her undergrad degree was in experimental theater. Right. She talked about, hey, I had the friends that really didn't want to go, or the really odd friends. Right. And then when the story where she talked about seeing the inside of a refrigerator of one of the individuals that she was doing a play with and who had been doing it for a long time and seeing that bare cupboard and saying, you know what, I'm not certain experimental theater is the right long-term plan for me. But then how she shifted not only into nutrition, but broadcast journalism for the most part, the way I see it, but being on Good Morning America and the Today Show and being the designated nutritionist, the journey she had. Someone else who had a journey that bent like a river. Remember that, Miguel? You talked about in your episode how
who said that's stupid analogy.
You talked about how your career has shifted and pivoted multiple times. I didn't know that.
It doesn't have to be a straight line.
Yeah.
Yeah, it never has to be a straight line.
If you could go back, have you always seen it like that? Like a river.
Yeah, I mean, I always. Yeah. No, when you're young and you're being tossed around like that and you don't know, you're thinking existential crisis. You're thinking, what am I going to do for the rest of my life? What is my career? And that's why I really relate to a lot of these students, because it's like you're under so much pressure to figure out what you're meant to be. But life is more like a river. You will bounce back and forth, and you have to be okay with that. And that's what's going to make you the best version of you possible, drawing from all these different experiences. But you already had me on the pod. You can listen to that again. You don't have to.
Well, Miguel, can I just tell you, so this is how I know that certain things have really stuck with me, is because, when I talk about the podcast, I really talk about all the amazing people that I've met, but also the one theme that has really run through this whole experience, which really are your words, which is that nobody's career path is straight, especially when you think about people of color, right? It's very curvy.
Yep.
And that is normal. And as I reflect on my own career in the same way, right? It is not a straight line. As a matter of fact, Wema Hoover is one of our other guests. She talked about looking at your career, especially nowadays, more like a skyline rather than a skyscraper.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
which was very poignant, right? Because that is how we've been taught is the right way to go. But sometimes it's not like that. It's not a straight line. Sometimes just a little bit like this, And a lot of our guests, including you,
right.
Where am I going? What am I doing?
Right.
Yeah. And I think that's the beauty of having different types of guests, right, within the podcast, but also different kinds of mentors or even board members, right, for MVP, so that you get that diverse and varying perspectives, because you're absolutely right. Yes, whether you call it a river or a skyline, I happen to call it, instead of a career ladder, it's a career lattice, right? Because people think of it as a ladder where you're always just going up. But, sometimes you go across and it's all about depth and breadth. And that's what I see in the work that we have done, the podcast guests that we've had, is that people have so much depth and breadth that they can offer to young students or even anybody who listens to our Momentum Now podcasts, right? And it's just wonderful to see different career journeys, different types of leaders, different types of professionals that we've had, because every single one brings in an insight or a perspective that you could take with you. And that's the beauty of it. And so really, again, so grateful for the work that you guys have done.
Thank you, Christine.
Yeah.
One of my favorite things that actually happened in most of the episodes, but Adonica brought it up, are the Bobisms.
What are those?
He's always got something, all right, And Adonica's episode, it was diversity disciples and mental trash, right? He always had some story or some phraseology, something like that. So we will always remember the Bobisms.
That's funny.
It's part
I think, Karen, you do a really, really great job encapsulating and summarizing all the insights. I find that hard to do, right? Because you're talking, but you're also listening at the same time. So I don't know how you guys did it, but you did it.
Honestly. One of my favorite people that I really enjoyed, and I had the pleasure of meeting him really early on when I was working with MVP, is Craig DeLarge. He is literally wisdom embodied into a person. Yeah. And he's always dropping gems. I feel like I'm always writing furiously when I meet with him. There's always something there. And I loved in the podcast when he was talking about self-awareness. And self-awareness as a leader is one of the most important things you can do, and to work on that throughout your entire life, right? There's the me that I know, there's the me that you know, and then there's the me that you know that I don't know, right? And that's the me that I need to get to know, right? It's that blind spot that he talks about, a self-awareness piece. And I think more and more young people need to focus on that. Yeah. Bring people around you that are going to know BS you and tell you exactly what you need to hear in that moment. So I think, I love Craig DeLarge. I love that episode.
I also love when he asked the question or ask the audience, right, to challenge themselves to ask the question of what is I can't remember all the words, but like, what is the problem, right, that you want to be able to solve that only you can solve, right? It's something along those lines, so that it's, it's helping you to find your core purpose, right? Because it is hard sometimes, to figure that out, especially as you're young in your career. But even if you're further in your career, sometimes I question that, like, what is the problem that I want to solve? So right, for society, right? I think that's what he was talking about. Help me out with the right words. I can't remember the exact words, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. He said, what is the problem you want to basically dedicate your career to?
Your life to.
Right, right. What is the problem that you want to look to solve? And you're going to be spending your time, your networking, your writing, your effort, all of it. And I thought that was great too. And that self-awareness was also part of his discussion. And then he has that wise working handbook, which I've probably given a half a dozen copies of that book to a number of younger professionals who, we all read those kind of self-help books or suggestion books, but it inevitably, even after decades in my career, when I go back and I'll look at those books, there's usually several nuggets. And with Craig DeLarge, there's, 30 or 40 of them in his book. So anyone that's listening that might be interested, to go check out Craig DeLarge and Wise Working. Yeah.
I also remember the energy that Brittany Hale put forward. Right? She was very dynamic. I remember that.
Yeah, Brittany's great. And
Awesome.
There was that, help me out, Karen. I don't know if you have your highlight notes from Brittany for when you did the highlight of the up of the show.
She's just done so much. Like she was in law, and then she was an entrepreneur. Like she just has done
a lot.
So much, right?
Yeah, I think that, so it's hard for me because I talk to Brittany all the time.
She's one of those guests that you knew really well, right? Yeah.
Like I knew really well. So like honing in on specifically what she talked about her episode, but I think she talked about something around being conflict curious, right?
Yeah.
And because that's one of her specialty areas. And I think that in general, that is something that's hard for us to do because we all think of it as a negative thing, but it can be a really positive thing. So she was really asking us to lean into that curiosity and challenge and in a constructive way. And so I thought that was really, really powerful. But we also had another Brittany, right, Bob? So we had two Brittany's.
Right. We had two Brittany back to back too,
Brittany Jackson. Yeah.
Britney Jackson Mosley.
Yeah.
But I love that Brittany was an entrepreneur as well, right? So she can live in corporate. And again, you would know better, Karen, but she can live in corporate. She could be an entrepreneur. She could be in law, right? She could sort of morph into all different things, but her leadership qualities kind of stayed consistent.
Yeah, multi-hyphenate.
Yeah. Can I ask you guys a question? Out of the guests that you guys had, which one would you have again? Which one did you feel like you didn't get enough of?
That's such a great question. Karen,
there's a few, right, where we ended.
Yeah. Go ahead,
There's a few, right, where we ended. And we were like...
So I'm just going to repeat one because, which was Wema Hoover.
Yes.
I felt like that conversation was so rich and so layered. And even afterwards, she was like, I felt like I was in my living room with you guys. It was very warm. But she's also an executive coach, right?
So she was a global DEI executive, right?
Yes, but she also was coaching and executive coaching. And so I felt like we got an amazing session right, during the podcast and wanted to continue because I was just learning so much from her. I think one of the things, some of the things are obvious, but they need to be said, right? It's about, she talked a lot about character and that being a defining differentiator and how you develop that character. But one of the things she also talked about, which was a little different than I think most of the guests that we had, was she put the onus on the older generation to help shape and coach the younger generation. So we spent a lot of time, rightly so, talking about, hey, young people, here's what you should do. And she flipped the script and talked about what we should do as this generation helping them and where we have opportunities, even in the face of where we might think that they need help, they may be failing, not doing so well. It's our responsibility to uplift them and stretch them and get them to the place where they need to be to thrive.
Yeah. Also, good shout out to the 15 coaches, the 15 individuals that signed up for MVP to be able to speak with students on a regular basis. And so many students took advantage of that. And it's to that, every single coach that we interviewed that wanted to be a part of MVP's coaching, they said, I want to give back. It's my responsibility to give back. I think I can make an impact. I want to be that person that was that for me when I was coming up in my career. I'll give my time. Yeah, just an amazing opportunity.
And, speaking of shout outs, Miguel, I also want to shout out to our volunteers, to people who are our partners, right? Not just the donors, obviously we would not have survived and sustained what we needed to do without our donors. But we also had a lot of great partners who gave time, who gave resources, who lent, for example, if they owned a creative agency, they lent, their support and their resources of their creative agency, for the things that we needed to do. So there's just so many people, not just our, Momentum Now guests, but all these people that have had a hand in the journey of MVP. So I just wanted to take that opportunity since we're shouting out some of our mentors. Yeah.
Thanks for highlighting that. And I'm still thinking about your question, Miguel. It's such a good question. Like, who would be that? Someone that hasn't been mentioned yet. It's hard to pick, which the favorites because they're all really strong. But Charlotte Castillo, Poderistas, she's the managing director of Poderistas and was a global brand executive for Viacom CBS. So big role, big job. And I loved how she focused on what she referred to as radical optimism and controlling the controllables and how, and then one other thing she talked about, which is her mantra of, I'll figure it out. Right. So when she had the opportunity to go from domestic to an international position, or when she was given one of her first big challenges to create a road show, if you will, and she hadn't managed live events, she just dove in and said yes, and confidence, like, I'll figure it out. Right. And that became her mantra. And I loved that.
That's awesome.
That's kind of what we did with MVP.
True.
We had no idea.
So many moments like that.
We were doing. No, especially in the beginning, Miguel. You have no idea how clueless we were. And it was just amazing how much we now know and how much we have learned through this journey. But I'll figure it out, or we'll figure it out. But it actually reminds me, and I may be biased, but I'm going to go there. My own son, Matt Sakdalan, when he was a guest for you guys, he has his full-time career, but he also managed to, do his own side hustle, and he just was going to figure it out, and he's still figuring it out.
Yeah.
And he owns it. He loves loves the journey, right? So I love the entrepreneurs. It's amazing. Because I'm not one, I'm not an entrepreneur. So I kind of, I get attracted to those kinds of stories, right? Because it's something that is, very difficult.
Well,
for
you
me.
are.
Yeah,
you started this organization.
Yeah.
You're now multi-hyphenate.
Yeah, never say that.
Oh, you're right. I didn't think of it that way.
Yeah. And you're certainly an intrapreneur with how you're leading teams and being, therapeutic lead within a large pharmaceutical organization. Like, bottom line is you have to be an intrapreneur, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so
but I
much,
love that,
Christine,
Bob.
for being the spark plug for MVP. I feel really blessed to have been part of the journey from the early days of, weekly meetings and digging in and making something out of, pulling something together, and creating something. It's easy to destroy. It's really hard to create. And I only say that because of our current climate right now, and it's been hard for me over the past year or so, or thereabouts, seeing that momentum of more negativity in the world, and I really do cherish a lot of our guests who focused on positivity, building, creating, and serving others. It was also a theme that came up a lot in a lot of episodes that I really appreciate.
No, for sure. And thank you for the partnership and the leadership. I've learned so much from all of you, from all of our board members, our partners, like I said, the entire community. And I also, again, want to do a shout out to Serene Henyon and Tina Chang, who are the co-founders. They're not part of this episode today, but I want to make sure that they know that I am so, so appreciative of that partnership, especially early on, but also how, we've just stuck it out and we figured it out. And here we are, bittersweet, sad day.
Yeah.
But we also have, again, so much to celebrate. I can't stress that enough.
It has been an honor and a privilege for me to participate. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to have this chapter in my own life selfishly and to have the opportunity to help others in this way. While things are changing, the momentum is not going to stop.
Yeah. Amen.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if I could chime
Shawn,
in.
you didn't get to go. What was your answer?
For what?
You're not getting away that easily.
Oh, if we could have another person on?
Yeah.
Probably, if y'all remember Dr. Juan Rios.
Yes.
Yeah.
He was...
What a guy.
He was stellar. And I think people like him are of paramount importance, when we're talking about, these times. Focusing on mental health is top of the list, especially when navigating such weird and ever-changing times. I think his episode really resonated pretty deeply. And I think that was one of them where we ended where I was like, can we just press record one more time and do that again? He's someone I would definitely like to have back and really kind of dive deeper into, because 45 minutes isn't enough.
No, it's not. He actually came back and did a workshop for the students after he had been on the podcast.
That's fantastic.
So I was really, really happy to have him on, and he's been fantastic. Yeah.
That's great.
Nice.
Well, thank you, Karen. Thank you, Shawn, Christine, Miguel. Thank you for helping to create the platform that is MVP and for fueling the movement that is MVP. Yeah, I feel really blessed to have been part of the journey. Thank you.
Me too. Thank you both for allowing me to do this. When Miguel first tapped me to do this, I was like, are you kidding me? Heck yeah. When I think of MVP, I just think of community, right? Access. I would have killed for something like this growing up. I've used a lot of the advice from everyone we talked to get my own full-time position now. So it's like, this is a very special thing for me these past 2 years. I think I'll always remember. I've taken so much. I've picked up so much just from the kindness of Miguel and Christine, and just volunteering and meeting you all and being with you in person and seeing the turnouts at your events. It just warms you up.
Yeah.
Just right then and there, warms you up. You see the opportunity that you bring to these individuals who never thought this would be. I was one of them. I would have killed for something like this. I would have tried to been first in line. And to see you guys champion this sort of initiative, just really, it digs deep in me. And I'll never forget the kindness you both shared with me and the times I've had with Karen and Bob, who's also have been my own personal little coaches on the side. So thank you all so very much. This has been a fantastic opportunity. I'm not going to take this lightly. I'll probably go shed a tear for a few hours after this.
I'm about to cry right now. There's a mic drop right there.
I know. Amazing. I think the great news, right, is that in as much as we have all been impacted and MVP momentum now of all the work that has filled our cups, it'll overflow. And even if we don't have the organization, each of us as individuals, that overflow will continue to bless others. It'll continue to impact others. And that's the work that we need to do, right? Is just keep doing the work even without the organization.
Agreed.
Absolutely.
You will always be MVP.
Poetry gets snaps.
Well,
Okay.
is that a wrap?
I felt like it was, yeah.
Yeah, that's
Then
a
it's
wrap.
Wow. Aw.
Mhm.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for
you.
being here and combining the reminiscing with
No.
the reminiscing. Yeah.